Alright, so now that we're done with the UVs, we can import this back in. And we can use Window UV Editor. You see that all the UVs are stacked on top of each other. Grab all the UVs, and what we want to do is go to Layout, Square Box. Make sure we use uniform scale across the objects. And I don't want any rotations, I don't think. I want to use a 512 map because the ambient occlusion bleeds onto other objects, and therefore a 512 map actually works a little bit better. It gives space in the UVs. And hit apply. So there's all the UVs for the sword all laid out. Now you'll see that certain elements got a little bit bigger and certain elements got a little bit smaller. So we have to kind of fix that before we can go on. Like this gem, for example. That is huge compared to everything else. All the detail in the handle and all the detail in the blade are going to be very super small compared to like this shell, for example, which is this element. Okay, so this is the uniforming UV video. Okay, to begin, let's fix this gem. So we can go mesh separate. There's a gem just like it on the other side, so I can grab these two, mesh combine them. Okay, modify center pivot. Shift D to duplicate it. I can scale this by -1. I like to modify freeze transformation that. And I also like to make sure the shading's okay, so I'll look at the shading under backface culling to make sure that the normals did not flip. Okay, and then I can put that element back onto the sword. Okay, and then recombine it. So this part right here, I'm just going to combine that. And I'm also going to combine everything that is the sword. The sword, well, everything actually. And that way I can go to the UV layout and again grab the UVs and go over here to layout. So what that did is it incorporated the new gem into the mix. Alright, and so one of the units, what we did is like we made this checker pattern. Just gonna browse my hard drive here. So as I said, we're going to be using this pattern over and over throughout the units, and so we have. So middle mouse button, click and drag it over to color, and attach it to the sword. Also, if you click on it, click here, we can go to the placement of it and see where it says repeat UV. Let's put this like to 10. For smaller items, I really like to have that option because it shows me where the texture detail is lying. And you can see here that the UVs in this area are rather big compared to the UVs in these areas. So that means the smaller the UV, or the smaller these numbers are, the smaller the squares are, that's where all the detail is going to go. Do I really need the detail in the gem? No. In fact, I would like to have the detail more over here in the sheath area. So these faces right here, let's grab some faces. Control right click to shell. That allows me to separate the sheath and put it over here. You'll also see the blade. The blade has really good UVs in this area, but not so good UVs in this area. Now we can fix all this stuff one at a time or all together. I prefer to just separate the sword. That way I can grab different elements and work on them separately. Okay, for example, this one. Though Blender did a good job, I would say maybe I can get a little bit more relaxed UV in this area with this tool. I'll try relaxing them or unfolding them. Okay, so I'm just kind of seeing why they are a little wonky in this area, where they're so beautiful in this area. Hopefully it's not a modeling issue. Okay, jump into my top view, and I'm just going to do a create UV planar map, square box, and base it off camera. Okay, you can see that that did a beautiful job of the UVs. Except for now it is very ununiformed, and it needs to be cut. So grab the blade, grab the UVs, go like this, and you can see it squares them right up. And then here I can grab the edge, cut it, grab the UV, control right click to shell, W on the keyboard allows you to pull the two shells apart. So let's see if the unfolding methods here in Maya work better. Remember, there's two shells here. There's a red one and a blue one. You can see them here. And for this one over on this side, I need to flip those. I'll grab the UVs from right there, and I'll try the unfolding method. Doesn't need much unfolding. And the back side, perfect. So I'm just unfolding certain elements here. I'm not unfolding the whole thing at once, because if you do that, sometimes it'll collapse. Take for example, if I grab all the UVs from here to here, go to the move tool, UV, cool, worked out good. So these are much better UVs on the sword itself. The rest look nice. Blender just had a hard time with those, must be. Okay, grab all the elements. Layout. And there's my new layout. As you can see with the new layout and the new fixing of that blade, things are starting to make a little bit more sense. If I grab these elements, the ones I'm having a problem with, I can grab these over here as far as UVs are concerned, and now I can make these a little bit bigger to match everything else. Okay, by making them smaller, you get bigger squares over here. Just be careful when you go to lay out your UVs again. You have to use the feature of none. That will maintain the uniformity of the UVs across the object. Now I'm just going to go in and manually scale until all the UV squares are the same. Same size across the entire object. So this one, need to make them a little bit smaller. This will ensure that when I go to the texturing phase later on in Photoshop, that I'm always using the same scale for the texture. Right about there. And the rest of it looks pretty good. So again, let's relay it out. So the deciding factor on resolution is going to be the blades themselves. You can see how long they are. What I'm going to do is try to scale these up a little bit more. Maya is really good at laying out, but they're not really good about organization on the UVs. I don't feel anyway. So I just got to make sure that none of this stuff goes over the 0 to 1, like this element right here is, but the big tall blade is not. And for the rest of these smaller elements, control right click to shell. I'm going to move them more here. And I'm going to spread them out a little bit easier, or a little bit more to make it easier to texture in Photoshop. And the more organized you are here in this phase, the easier your life becomes when you're doing the texture phase in Photoshop. Again, my preferred way of doing textures is Mudbox, but this is not a Mudbox class. So I did show that in one of the videos, and you can use Mudbox, but I have to do the Photoshop phase. And some of these phases I'm not going to be able to show on the videos because really Unit 5 is all about knowing the workflow a little bit more. Okay, so for example here, these I know that these are my holders for those gems. I know these are my gems. These are all green, so I might want to put these in an area and organize this stuff based upon material. This is my strap. This is my, put that over here. So if I put all my straps in one area, this is part of my handle. If I put my handle part down here, again, handle part. So organize this stuff as best you can, because really it does pay off. Huge. There we go. And put all those elements there. Put all the gems together. These are probably going to be the same color. And there we go. Now this is a little spread out. Usually I like to make it, take up the 0 to 1 perfectly, but all the actual textures are uniformed, so I don't have to worry about scale. And I feel that sometimes scale is an issue with worrying about textures. So let's just go with that layout. I would like to think about this being combined and this being combined. They're two separate UV layouts, but together they can be ran off the same texture. Alright, so that's it for the layout phase on UVs. Let's go on to the next video.